I really like to break Batman down. I relish in telling tragic stories about flawed people and how they might redeem themselves. Batman has evolved from a childhood hero to a cautionary tale in my mind. There is so much that could go wrong. Only the absolute best of humankind could take the responsibility of a vigilante, and Bruce Wayne is not exactly one of those people, because simply being selfless is not nearly enough. We see this clearly mentally ill, grievous person believe they must do this, that they are the only one to do it. Then from this promise, we see him fail, often in violent, cascading ways. Batman in 1989 and Batman Returns in 1992 have my favorite aesthetic of all of the Batman films. Forget about the technical components. The set design, props, and costumes are inspirational. I feel that the effort can be comparable to the original Star Wars trilogy, which is praised for its incredible set design of fictional locations. It elevates the saliency of the backgrounds in the film. It fills the shot with components all solely made for the art in question. Someone had to do the concept art, someone had to storyboard, then someone had to take all of that and meticulously construct, paint, and decorate the set. Despite the outdated technology, it really conveys a fictional world that is not our own. After The Dark Knight, people became obsessed with the idea that Gotham City is this ordinary American city, that Batman is the quote-unquote realistic hero compared to the rest of the superhero gallery. While I think Batman's relation to reality is extremely vital to his character, I also believe that a more exaggerated Gotham elevates those feelings. It's what makes Batman unique compared to any other detective movie. Also, no offense, but the Gotham of The Dark Knight is just honestly really boring and unimaginative. It's a background you will see in hundreds of other action movies. It definitely doesn't help how these locations are shot either, with very safe and corporate camera usage. Subscribers of my channel have heard all of this many times before, but I'm saying it again to express the primary reason I loved Batman and Batman Returns, and why that love culminated in my attempt to finish this Batman story arc, one abandoned by Warner Brothers. But this video will also be about how a stark, sad realization about both this Batman's world and Tim Burton himself convinced me to quit halfway through. In this video, there will be many pieces of media that I and my friend Harry designed for your enjoyment. Harry's comic panel renditions of Batman Continues and my modeling hopefully sells this world to you that overused trailers and footage wouldn't. But unfortunately on this platform, the chances of being rewarded for hard work is simply a gamble with low odds. I implore you to share this video if you like it and consider donating to the channel. Anyways, back to Batman Continues. A while ago, I began drafting up a script for a movie called Batman Continues. This was the title that Tim Burton said he wanted the third Batman movie to have. I sort of obsessed over the possibilities of this film. What would the new city set look like? When would it take place? Would Catwoman return? Who would be the villains? I wanted this film to feel like the others. I wanted the sets to be different, yet fit in the same world. I even created a logo for the movie. You can tell immediately that this is going to be a Halloween film. And since Catwoman, Selina Kyle in Batman Returns is better than pretty much every other character in the two movies, so I decided yes, Catwoman would return with one life left. You might be wondering, who are the villains of this movie? I got you covered. Jarvis Tetch owns a large residential building downtown. His hat shop would be on the first floor. This is a more or less abandoned place that no one really visits. He is collecting people. Gotham is his wonderland, and he knows for sure that each character from the book has a corresponding one within real life. He still has many seats to fill for his huge tea party, the culmination of the entire film. Of course, Batman is Alice and is a required guest at the table. The Mad Hatter accepts the madness of Gotham as a natural order and is entertained by Alice's futile attempts to appraise a broken reality. At the beginning of the movie, Catwoman is captured by Mad Hatter and imprisoned in this labyrinth apartment building. Its many bizarre rooms agitate Selina's failed attempts to escape. This is our modernist villain of this film. He is very clearly deranged and his motives are unjustifiable. Even though Mad Hatter has the capacity to be written as a tragic villain, of course, that role goes out to others in the film. Our next villain is Two-Face. Coming from the first Batman movie, everyone wanted to see Billy D. Williams' Two-Face, and the thematic deconstruction found within this movie perfectly fits the former defense attorney. This will be a deeply philosophical character. The first monologue in the story is filled to the brim with metaphors and ideas about morality, thoughts that will be weaponized against the Dark Knight. His hatred towards Batman is inflamed by the one case he couldn't win, one where the cost of siding against the mob was half his face eroded by acid, all because Batman mysteriously murdered Harvey Dent's key witness. Two-Face is the ultimate neutralizer of Batman. He's going to unveil the failures and hypocrisies seen in the previous films that went unacknowledged. He is a man running off the pain and anger we feel about the system that fails to achieve the justice we pretend to stand for. The final character that I'm really excited to talk about is Killer Moth. This is the perfect character for Tim Burton's wacky world, especially during Halloween. Drury Walker is a tragic anti-hero who loses his job at Wayne Enterprises due to an eye condition the company has not compensated him for. He was fueled to don a moth costume for his daughter who was dying of the same illness, and seemingly turned to theft to pay for her treatments. After her death, he was indebted to the mob and he couldn't stop his life of crime, even if he wanted to. His costume is an eternal damnation, as its conception was derived from the many drawings his daughter mailed to him of a moth creature, a beast whose sight betrays him. I think this character's initial motivation could have been more unique and would be something I plan to evolve, but the purpose of this character is extremely important. Killer Moth is going to be the creation of Bruce Wayne through his negligence to repair his company. Bruce is going to see himself in this new vigilante, a mirror to expose what the public sees in Batman. It was important to make this film feel like a true sequel. It has the same kind of campy dialogue, monologues, and catchy lines. I wanted to infuse humor, have bizarre moments that make you confused. A classic example is a villain capturing a character through a trap door that just happened to be where they were standing. Yes, I even have a scene where the mayor is giving a public announcement speech in front of City Hall. I tried my best in the fight scenes particularly, which within former movies had very memorable set pieces, utilized environmental props, and even explored new bat gadgetry each time. One of my first attempts was near the beginning of the film. Catwoman has escaped into a new room within Mad Hatter's lair, an upside-down kitchen. From the rearing silence, rabbit goons begin covertly swarming from the random cabinet openings. Despite being upside down, the room has a lamp with a very stiff chain holding it up. This is the kind of ridiculous set piece I would expect to find in a Tim Burton film. Shockingly, Selina uses the gravity-defying lamp as a bat against the horrific rabbits. With that said, my attempt to mirror the writing of the former film only goes so far. You'll notice I make the characters a lot more serious and developed. Narratively, the 56 pages or so I've written, about halfway through the film, are not perfect, but I spent a lot of time thinking about how the characters correlate, how to progress their arcs, how to balance so many of them at once, and how to pace these beats. There are lots of little plot points that add up. For instance, Alfred's death at the very beginning of the film results in a change in the heart of Bruce Wayne. Alfred says, "You are still that young boy in my eyes, tossed into a fractured world of vicious politics and hard decisions. Bruce Wayne still has so much to learn about himself and about this city. He has to reflect, evaluate why he makes the decisions and choices he does. I've done my part, Bruce. Now you must do yours. You must become a Wayne." What Alfred is trying to say here is that Bruce still needs far more improvement, that he still doesn't fully understand his goal and his home. This causes Bruce Wayne to quit Batman for a long time, instead hoping to help the city as a Wayne for once. The future of the world belongs to the youth of the world. It is from the youth and not from the old that the fire of life will warm and enlighten the world. It is your privilege to breathe the breath of life into the dry bones of many around you. The pocket watch within this scene is important to Bruce, and it shows up later when Bruce is forced to become Batman against his own wishes, or so he wants us to believe. While fighting a group of gang members on a subway train in search of information about a quote-unquote white rabbit, the pocket watch is knocked out of his utility belt. One of the thug reaches and snatches for it, causing Batman to become uniquely angry and protective over it, the most angry we've ever seen this version of the character. From our point of view, we know this means Batman is afraid. He's so afraid of what could happen while being Batman again that he needs Alfred to be with him at all times, embodied through this pocket watch. Alfred is a witness to the tragedy of Bruce. As Batman begins to assault the gang blocking his path to the next car, a young boy in the arms of his mother begins to cheer for Batman. The Batman in his innocent eyes is a symbol of good, despite the evil unveiling before him. Batman brutally dismantles the gang one by one, leaving them with permanent injuries. The truth is that those who join gangs, more often than not, they are young men in their teens, often do come from the most difficult family backgrounds, from an environment where they feel neglected and unwanted. Gang membership can bring a perverse sense of belonging which they may not have ever got at home. Batman Continues is a perfect opportunity to have all of Batman's previous actions blow up in his face. All of the people he's killed like a sociopath, all the property damage, the greedy alter ego that acts like any other billionaire weirdo, his weird belief that he is above everyone else. Batman can kill any old nobody, thug, or even Joker, but as soon as Selina Kyle wants to kill a very obviously disgusting billionaire who womanized and murdered her, it's suddenly a problem. In this story, Bruce's doubts, ego, and past all attack him simultaneously, and even reporters find it hard to believe that Bruce Wayne is renovating an orphanage out of the kindness of his own heart instead of just for PR points. Even Jim Gordon's interaction with Bruce Wayne only reinforces how out of touch he really is. Jim takes a moment to comment on Wayne Enterprises' new exterior elevator, something of the future in Gotham. Bruce Wayne fails to recognize what Jim is even referring to, as he takes a private elevator to his office anyways. Jim takes a confused look down at the glass floor of this luxury office, a full view of the bustling elevators below. When Bruce becomes Batman again, he immediately gets in altercations with people who are not even involved in the case he's working. He assaults a random person in a Halloween costume, then of course assaults the gang. My job as a writer here is to torture this guy, just completely embarrass him, and it's kind of therapeutic. There is a cult of ignorance in the United States, and there always has been. The strain of anti-intellectualism has been a constant thread winding its way through our political and cultural life, nurtured by the false notion that democracy means that my ignorance is just as good as your knowledge. The final scene I wrote was a fight between Batman and Killer Moth. This was my favorite sequence in the film so far. Not only does Bruce prove again to be out of touch, but he gets his shit rocked. Bro gets blasted by a dude in a moth costume and a cocoon gun. Desperately, his wings flap, slapping Batman in the face repeatedly till he lets go. He delivers a kick so powerful that Batman's back pulverizes the wall. Batman attempts to strike, but it results in his jaw going through a glass display case. Killer Moth painfully looks towards the light and flies to it. He yells as he grabs the top of the chandelier and pulls down. After he rips it from the ceiling, he slams it down onto Batman with the force of 1,000 sorrows. Like goddamn. But in all seriousness, this isn't just Batman getting destroyed, it is the most telling about both of these characters. Batman starts pursuing Killer Moth after robbing a bank because he quote-unquote matches the description of someone who might work for Mad Hatter, even though Killer Moth is not involved at all. When Killer Moth asks why he cares about protecting a corrupt bank, he responds with a politically charged word that really means nothing: justice. He sees Killer Moth as a petty, selfish criminal, the way he sees most criminals, if not all of them. After the two brutally scramble atop a massive neon sign in the Gotham skyline, I directed the fight away from the rooftops to a location with a lot of plot relevance. The two spiral down, falling into the roof of an old abandoned building. As they recover, it becomes clear that this is the Pennyworth orphanage that Bruce Wayne recently started renovating. The orphanage is something that Bruce believed could help rid him of guilt, but that idea is shattered by Jury Walker. It's not about Wayne, the children who could live here. Children? If the Wayne Foundation truly cared about children, they would have saved my daughter. Unfortunately, this sequence perfectly highlights the reason I stopped writing the script. My attempt to add more depth to these characters, something I enjoy doing, results in a story that is radically different thematically to the previous films, which had a narrative whose only purpose was to set up action sequences, comedy, and surface-level characters. I recently rewatched Batman Returns with a group of people who aren't necessarily Batman fans, and got secondhand embarrassment for the weird choices littered throughout the film. The innuendos and sexualization within Batman Returns is so unjustified when the writing isn't actually trying to prove any kind of deep theme or lesson. The movie is filled to the brim with sexualized women and contrived romance, yet wants you to think that Catwoman represents woman empowerment. It's just weird, it goes too far for too little payoff. I mean, no wonder Warner Brothers cut this off. If this was a more serious film that took itself seriously, then these elements could be justified if used to express something real. But that's just not the case, and I feel like people need to admit this. It's something I don't want to associate with, and none of that weirdness is present in my Batman 3. It just proves that my film is attempting to repair the clearly lackluster and generic storylines of Batman and Batman Returns, trying to redeem something that may not need another chance in the first place. The deaths and damage Batman causes in them is nothing more than a joke or a plot contrivance to the writers, and my story trying to give these events a serious impact kind of feels like this.
Security? Who lit the 50 event on the back ticket? I'm sitting there working and I had to turn around and better shit. Oh, hi, come on in.
In truth, the reason I want a Batman 3 is not because of the writing, but because the world of Gotham in these films is so captivating and mysterious. Piecing together the city where each scene takes place and their relation to each other is so interesting to me. In the other Batman films, the sets don't necessarily have the same quality. They don't have the same tangibility. The Batman definitely was a huge step above The Dark Knight in creating interesting fictional sets and locations, but the point remains. Of course, to be fair, I can see how having a new Batman film take place in a few blocks like the Tim Burton films would probably feel odd, but it's something I miss. The attempt at illusion was entertaining in of itself. Of course, there is still plenty of amazing VFX and trickery in the Batman, but ultimately it's trying once again to sell that Gotham is just another Chicago. The art direction, the impact, the music, and the atmosphere of the Tim Burton films that carried into other projects is so nostalgic and captivating that it stops us from realizing that these elements are all that is worth cherishing about these films. Just because these things are so good in particular doesn't necessarily make the whole of these films good. Despite not having a lot of interest in continuing the story, I am hesitant to just provide the entire unfinished script here because I did spend a lot of time on it, and there are multiple sections that could be vastly improved. If this video is successful, then I will feel way more inclined to finish what I started, but only if. Also, special thanks to Harry Slattery for his awesome original drawings that really helped out with the visuals of this video. As I've said in the beginning, please consider supporting my two channels. My second channel can't even be monetized yet, so I need to see growth like now, or I'm effectively creating videos entirely unpaid, which is something I've been doing for a long time anyways. With that said, thanks for watching. I truly appreciate that you got to the end of this video, and I do hope to see you again soon.